How to arouse women, how to arouse this woman with words alone, effectively, yet respectfully, without appearing like a perverted creep. Today is a great day. I will reveal the secret to you. I will tell you about that one detail you absolutely must consider if you want to arouse a woman. I will reveal the secret of how women work, how their sensitivity is structured, and what can arouse them if you hit the right spot in her brain. It's not that difficult. There's only one thing you need to know, only one detail to consider, and hundreds of variations stemming from it. But if you don't know this trick, it will be difficult for you to arouse her effectively, and most importantly, subtly and respectfully. Before I reveal my secret, I would like to make a small semantic digression. As an exception, I want to clarify that to arouse a woman is simply to evoke desire in her, in this case, sexual desire, and to be even more precise, sexual desire specifically for you. When you try to arouse a woman, you move her from the stage of "this man interests me, I am considering him," to the stage of "I want this man, I want to move to the next level with him." That is, we are at the very beginning, at the origins, if you will, of your relationship. I consider it my duty to emphasize that this differs from the concept of heating up a woman. Heating up rather refers to the next stage, what happens right before getting down to business. So, right now, we are talking specifically about arousing a woman. That is, to move her from a state of "I'm just curious" to a state of "I want him." To make her psychologically Nestroit's on the right track, imagine herself with you, and for her to like it, to arouse her desire. I repeat, we are talking about the very first steps. Now that we've clarified this point, I think I'm ready to reveal this secret to you. In fact, it's not so much a secret, it's just not talked about often enough. And yet, this is the base, the absolute foundation. Women are not wired like you men. Women have, some might call it a weak spot, but in any case, they have a sensitive point, and it's located right here, in their head, and this sensitive point is none other than the imagination. I know perfectly well that you men are also endowed with this superpower, imagination. I don't use this word in vain. It truly is a superpower, a very powerful thing. So what is imagination? It's simply the ability to create mental images, and what we will be seeking from women is to make them create mental images, pleasant, realistic, and future-oriented. You see, a woman very often lives by projections. She rarely exists solely in the present moment. Women often anticipate events, think several moves ahead, imagine what will happen next, and the fact that you will participate in constructing her mental images for the future, in preparing her for what's to come, can play into your hands. Why? Because you will help her tune into sharing that moment with you. So, don't hesitate to first slip into her fantasies, and then act directly through her imagination, offering and suggesting the right images to her. Essentially, the main idea of how to arouse a woman is to skillfully weave the right words into the conversation, so that she can imagine herself with you in a certain setting, and especially in situations with a clearly suggestive subtext. When I say clearly suggestive subtext, I mean that the images in her head will be suggestive, but your words don't necessarily have to be. The whole task comes down to implanting images in her head, but the main thing is to offer such images that she will then adapt for herself. I'll give a banal example. You're chatting about this and that, and the conversation turns to your next meeting. You say you'd like to spend this time with her, share some moment, for example, watch a movie or something like that. But at the same time, you hint at a situation where it will be just the two of you. You will be close to each other, and consequently a situation that could go a little further. Then, of course, if there is already more comfort and trust between you, you can certainly go further and suggest much more intimate images, for example, how you kiss her neck, hug her, and so on. But the point is not to impose pictures on her, but to help her create them. I'll explain. If you give her raw, ready-made images, she might not react to them at all, because these are pictures that you have fabricated in advance and are trying to stuff into her head just like that, and that's not the goal at all. On the contrary, a woman really likes to receive individual details. You give her a few such elements, building blocks, and she builds her own fantasy. she creates her own mental picture from what you tell her. If you draw her very specific things, there's a risk they won't match her vision. For example, you're discussing some situation, it doesn't matter which, and say that, when you come to visit her, you'd like to relax on her luxurious sofa, but at her place, well, I don't know, there's no sofa at all. It sounds silly, but it can happen. Or you say you'd really like to take a bath with her, and she doesn't have a bathtub, only a shower. You see? You become too specific, the pictures stop matching, there's a glitch, and the imagination can no longer function. So the idea is to remain sufficiently vague and let her create images herself based on the specific details you feed her. What are these details? First and foremost, they are details related to the five senses. Therefore, when you want to arouse a woman, feel free to immerse her in the situation with words, but do not go into material details. Instead, do not hesitate to fully use details concerning smells, touch, words you might say, perhaps taste if it concerns food, hearing, what you will listen to, and so on. Describe the general atmosphere and what she will be able to feel, but let there be no rigid boundaries in your picture. This is where the secret of proper sexualization lies, because in essence, we are talking about exactly that. The secret of how to arouse a woman with just words is simply to let her create mental images herself, spicy mental images with the help of your words. And here you can be sure that the woman in front of you will eventually get aroused, because the pictures she draws for herself will match her fantasies, her tastes, which she already has, and she will share them with you. So you just give a hint, you work on the level of suggestion, and she does all the rest of the work herself. That's what's most beautiful about this mechanism. You don't impose, you are only here to give her the necessary elements, and she completes the work herself. She arouses herself based on what you tell her. Of course, at some point, you shouldn't stay too subtle and just skim the surface. Don't be afraid to use more specific scenarios. Don't hesitate to employ slightly more explicit language. It's important to ensure you're truly leading a sexual game, that you clearly intend to transition smoothly into intimacy, especially if you're in a context where she's interested, where she's engaging in the game, and so on. At this stage, there are no problems. You see, this is not harassment. You are not doing anything intrusive. You are simply having a conversation, but a very imaginative one. I truly insist. This is the very secret, the very method, the very thing that needs to be clearly understood. To arouse a woman, you need to let her get used to the idea. You need to have all these images appear in her head. It's the images, not your immediate actions, no. Before making even the slightest move, you need to go through words. For your actions to be accepted later, she needs to be able to foresee them. A woman is naturally timid. She needs to anticipate events. She needs to expect something. Even if not in the smallest details, she needs to understand the general outline of what will happen next, so that she doesn't have a reaction of rejection or fear. A woman needs to be prepared. And preparing a woman means arousing her by saying words, tender words, piquant words, planting images in her head that she will ultimately complete herself. And since these images will ultimately be created by her, she will be very comfortable with this thought. She will feel much more confident, and the further development of events will proceed much more smoothly and with much less stress for both of you. Know that this is a truly very, very powerful tool. Understanding how fantasy works and how effectively you can stimulate a woman's imagination is truly impressive. It is a really super powerful thing, and you simply cannot ignore it. Today I have revealed this secret to you. I hope this has helped you understand a little better what goes on in a woman's head. I hope it has inspired you to go further, to learn more, to practice, and to become a true god of arousal. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but god of sexualization is definitely a term that can be used. I hope you feel inspired to develop in this direction. I can only support you in this because a man who knows how a woman works is a man who is successful in relationships with women. One of the main expectations from our side, the female side, is for you to understand us. It's just that we don't always tell you exactly what needs to be understood, hoping you'll guess it yourself. Fortunately, I'm here to tell you about it, aren't I? See you soon, and all the best.